the Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast with your hosts, Reese Downing and Jacob Workman.
What is up, everyone? Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NCAA edition, week 13 picks. Most teams have 2 games left in the season, quickly approaching the end. Joining as always, co-host Reese Downing. Reese, how's it going?
What's going on, brother? How are you?
I don't even know how to feel about the playoff right now. It's pretty disgusting when you look at it. It's kind of just like a bigger form of last year. People are getting pissed off already. We can kind of all see the writing on the wall as to what this is going to be. There's teams that have beat teams, and they're somehow ranked one spot right behind them in the rankings, which I'll never understand. I don't know. I'm gonna talk a little bit here in a little bit about something that's kind of interesting to me. Has to do with Ohio State. But to start with Ohio State, their center Seth McLaughlin tore his Achilles, and they have now lost their starting left tackle and center for the season. I don't know if the committee is going to weigh that if, say, IU beats them this week. Last year, we lost Jordan Travis, and that seemed to be our whole team. Ohio State's now lost 2 of their starting offensive linemen, which are a pretty big deal for what they do. Will that be a factor for the committee? That's a question we're going to see. Like, what if IU beats Ohio State? Like, are they out? Like, that's. I mean, judging by what it looks like now, you would almost think so. So, but we're gonna get into that here in a little bit. That's just a little precursor as to some of the discussion, because I mean, we saw it was set in stone last year, and I mean, they've already lost to Oregon, which, yeah, they're the number 1 team in the nation, but they don't really have many impressive wins. They did beat Penn State, but to me, Penn State's very overrated still. They're not that impressive. So, but again, we'll get into it in a little bit. Speaking of Oregon, this just shows you how stupid these mega conferences are. I think last week we talked about tiebreakers, and I was like, yeah, you can't even begin to figure these goddamn things out. Like, they make no sense. Well, it took the Big Ten 72 hours to figure out that Oregon had made the Big Ten Conference Championship game already. They ran all of the scenarios after Saturday, and they did determine that there's no way possible for them now to not be one of the top 2 teams in the conference. It took 3 days to run these tiebreakers. Like this, I don't know. These college football is getting ruined quickly. I don't understand what's going on with it, but I think there needs to be some sort of. I don't know. We just got to figure it out, because we've got Lane Kiffin coming out saying teams are wanting to not even play in the conference championship games. I mean, that's a problem. That's I don't know. Like like the NFL makes sense. People talk about the NFL like you hear in college football, they're like, oh, well, look at their schedule, look at their schedule, look at their schedule. Okay, well, look at the NFL. There's teams that win their conferences that are 9-8, and they get in the playoffs because they did what they needed to do. I don't care like if some of these conferences aren't as strong. They need to be in. Like, that's just how it should work. Like, make it fair, make it the top teams in the conferences, and go on with it, instead of 34 SEC teams and 5 Big Ten teams and then 1 of every other conference in college football. Like, there's got to be some factor. People talk about winning games. There's got to be factors to losing games. Like, I don't know. We've got to get this figured out.
I mean, especially if you look at, you're talking about the NFL. Like, there's some of those 9-8 teams have made the playoffs and end up going on to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like the Giants, the Giants
exactly,
here.
The
like,
Giants. Yeah. So, and then you think about the fact that this is a one and done scenario. It's not like it's a 3-game series. So anything can happen in one game.
It's the beauty of football. Like, that's why we're here. Like, that's what we want to see. Like,
yeah.
And especially this year, like this year more than any, like there's not a good team in college football. Like, there's not a team this year in college football that I say they can win. I don't look at the playoff and say, oh, this is easy. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, we were like, oh, Ohio State looks pretty damn good. But we did say, Will Howard's the question. Will Howard's not going in and winning 3 playoff games. I can tell you that right now. So if Oregon, if they do not win the Big Ten the Big Ten championship and get a bye, Ohio State has no shot. That offense cannot win a national championship. And Oregon is probably the closest to dominant, and Boise State took them to the brink on their home field. So, I mean, this is a year where anyone can truly win this damn thing. And I don't know. I think we're ruining it by trying to get 4-loss teams from the SEC in there. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. If we're going to expand the playoff, then maybe. Yeah. Like I truly think it should be 16 teams, and if you make your conference championship game, you get in. Winner gets the bye. If we're going to do buys, however they want to do it. If they don't want to do buys, cool. But they got to do something, or the conference championship games then aren't going to be meaningful at all. No one's going to care. So there's got to be some benefit to winning that, but I don't know. There's just got to be. I don't know. We've got to figure out winning, and you shouldn't be punished for losing the conference championship game, which is how some people are feeling now with what Lane Kiffin's saying about how teams don't want to play in it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, if we're going to do a scenario where you're going to still reward the conference championship winners, which I think is valid, you should do that. We're going to have to come up with a scenario that's not 16 teams unless they do a play-in game for, similar to how March Madness works, where you've got two teams that play in for the 16 seed.
Well, maybe you just guarantee them a home field game in the first round. I mean, that's a huge advantage in college football in itself, especially if you got some of these cold weather teams and a warm weather team that has to end up going to a cold weather team. Then, like, at least give them a benefit for winning. I think they've got to do that. But
yeah,
something's just got to get figured out, because when, like, my main instance here is Penn State. Like, Penn State is almost essentially in the playoff, and they don't have to do anything. Like, they're not going to the conference championship game. They literally just get to go play Minnesota, and I forget who their last game is, but do you think Penn State's worrying right now about their making the college football playoff? Like, no, they're in excellent shape because they get to sit at home. They don't have to go to Indianapolis and play in a conference championship game and play an extra game. They're going to waltz right in to a home game in the playoff. Like, it's just crazy to me. There's got to be, and I'm not for the Notre Dame shit either. Notre Dame losing Northern Illinois to me should disqualify them from the playoff, because I don't think they should get the right to get a home field playoff game either in this situation. Like, they're just sitting along, cakewalking through. I mean, yeah, their schedule did have teams on it we thought were going to be good that ended up not being good, but still, like, I don't know. We've got to figure it. The whole thing needs figured out. I just don't like where it's at right now. At least Notre Dame is 11, or if the wins out, will be 11-1 with a win at Texas A&M. So I'll give them that credit. So at least they're 11-1, not 9-3 like some of these teams that could potentially get in from the SEC. So
yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens this week. But even with a scenario with Notre Dame, like their win at A&M was the first game of the season too, right? So like,
yeah,
I think that's a little different than beating A&M 10 weeks into the season.
Yeah, it is, but I'm still going to give them the credit for it.
They haven't lost, right? I mean, the only game they've got there is the Northern Illinois game, which was a shocker of a game. But those types of games are the exact reasons why you're saying what you're saying, where we need to get these conference winners into it, because
yes,
some of these teams you wouldn't expect to get a victory. Put them in a situation where it's do or die, and suddenly these guys play above their capabilities, and you get games like Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame, which is what everybody wants to see.
Yes, and I mean, they went to Notre Dame and beat them on their home field. Like, I think the MAC champion should get in. I think the American champion should get in. Sun Belt champion should get in. They should all, the winners of the conferences should get in. Like, you're essentially telling these people you're playing for nothing. Like, you got 5 conferences battling for 1 spot when you got 1 conference that gets 6 spots. Like, that's not right. Like, it's.
Yeah, and it's going to be the same. We talked about this earlier in the year, where like you see all these power conferences and how difficult it is for you to get into a position where you're going to make the playoff. Well, now if you don't play in one of the power fours, like what's even the point? Like, at that point, it's better for you to move into a power 4 conference so you have an outside shot of making the playoff, because to your point, winning the MAC title, even at 13-0, doesn't necessarily guarantee you to get in.
Nope.
You know, they're going to put a 3-loss Georgia team over the MAC championship, which is bullshit, because I don't want to see a 3-loss Georgia team in the playoff.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And sadly, I don't think there's an answer to it, because those teams are what run the sport, and that's what the TV money is, and that's the whole problem with. There needs to be a college football commissioner of some sort. They just got to get it figured out and quit letting the TV networks basically manipulate everything. We'll see what happens at the end of this week. Obviously, we're going to get a much clearer picture in the next 2 weeks as to what's going to go down. Some other news. TNT, speaking of getting more exposure, TNT Sports has picked up the Big 12 football and basketball games from ESPN as part of their little deal where ESPN got inside the NBA. So TNT will now have Big 12 and Mountain West and college football playoff games. So beginning in 2025, they're going to broadcast 13 Big 12 football games. So that will get, you hear a lot when we talk through the games. A lot of Big 12 games are on ESPN Plus. That's just part of their deal of where they're at. So at least we're going to get those off ESPN Plus and get them on TV. I am happy about that because I do think the Big 12 needs more exposure. It's a great conference. This year it's a crazy conference, but I do think we need to get some of these games off ESPN Plus where I don't feel like a lot of people are probably going to watch them, and we can get them on TNT where they're much more mainstream. There was a firing of an offensive coordinator. We've talked about this quite a bit because we always reference Wisconsin as the dairy raid. Well, Phil Longo, the offensive coordinator, was fired after the game against Oregon. So the dairy raid is now officially dead. So we will see what direction Wisconsin goes in, if they try to go back to more of a power offense like they've been in the past, or what Luke Fickell is going to try to do with the offense in the future. Florida Atlantic has fired head coach Tom Herman. Something that was kind of interesting was last week, Tom Herman had fired defensive coordinator Rock Bellatoni. Well, Herman's out, and now the new interim head coach brought back Bellatoni to be the DC. So he got fired. Herman got fired, and now the DC that had got fired originally is now back. So it's kind of a little interesting twist. We're now up to 11 FBS head coach openings. One that we talk about on this show quite a bit is Ball State. Ball State has announced the firing of coach Mike New. Offensive line coach Colin Johnson will serve as interim head coach for the team's final 2 games. Just to run through the other 10, Charlotte, East Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Fresno State, Kennesaw State, Rice, Southern Miss, Temple, UMass, and Utah State. So for people taking note, if you are an OWL school, your coach is gone. All of the OWL schools in FBS have officially fired their coaches. FAU, Kennesaw State, Rice, and Temple are all the Owls. Those are the 4 FBS schools that are Owls, and they're all gone. So, little interesting twist there.
It's interesting. Yeah, from a Ball State perspective, just because it's close to my heart. There's a couple guys that I've read they're interested in. Tyler Stockton, I think, is number 1, just because he's got ties to Ball State already. He's the defensive coordinator at Boise State right now. When he was at Ball State. In his first year there, we won the MAC title. In the final year, he led the Cardinals defense to a top 25 national rankings in rush defense, and total defense was 21st while ranking 32nd nationally in pass defense. So would love to see that there. There's also a dude I haven't heard of before. He's coaching Incarnate Word, which is an FCS level school named
Very
Clayton
good
Killa.
school.
Yeah, he's 31 years old. The past 2 coaches there currently are in successful FBS programs. Eric Morris at North Texas and GJ Kinn at Texas State. So that's an interesting one. I've also heard rumblings of the head coach over at Butler, Steve Morrison, who's the Bowling Green DC, which is kind of interesting because that's who we're playing this week. I'm kind of rooting for Tyler Stockton, but I would love also to just see the young kid Clint Killa come in and see what he can do. Been a long time coming for Mike New. Obviously, I think Ball State as a program held on to him a lot longer than what they typically would just because of his ties to the university. But yeah, looking forward to seeing a new head coach with the program.
I'm going to throw in our boy. He's at Texas A&M right now. Let's bring Joey Lynch home and let Joey Lynch get his first head coaching job in college football.
Yeah,
I know he was on the staff with New, so that's probably not as likely, but
yeah,
still rooting for him to get the head coaching job. I think it'd be awesome.
There's an outside shot. Colin Johnson sticks with it too. I just don't see that happening. I think that's probably a long shot, but
yeah, I would expect probably a staff turnover, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So in the note of those teams, the first 11 openings of the season are all group of 5. There is no Power 4 coach that's been fired yet, which is kind of interesting. Baylor did announce they were bringing back Coach Dave Aranda, so my prediction of the first coach being fired is wrong, clearly. I'm shocked he's coming back. I think Baylor's making a huge mistake here, especially with the Big 12, because I feel like the Big 12 is wide open. Like, I feel it. I think it's a terrible decision, but we'll see as we go on to next year. Speaking of the Big 12, getting into some Heisman talk here. Anyone that watched the Utah-Colorado game, Isaac Wilson, I mean, I know he's known to be a real true, like, best quarterback in college football, and wide receiver Dorian Singer. I mean, everyone knew he was like the best receiver in the Big 12, right? So the worst passing offense in the country absolutely lit up Travis Hunter last week, and he became a bigger favorite. He's now minus 400 to win the Heisman, where Ashton Genty is now plus 400.
It's horse shit. Just because he's got more snaps.
Yeah, he truly, the only thing on his resume is snaps. He's not the best receiver in college football. He's not the best corner in college football. I think he has, I forget the stat, but it's like 20, I think it's like 23 maybe, 23 tackles on the season. Like, and 4 interceptions. And one of the interceptions was last week, and it wasn't, I mean, it was a deflection that literally landed right in his hands. He did nothing on the play, but happened to be in a spot. So, I mean, he's not doing, playing plays is not impressive. Like, I mean, yes, it's athletically impressive, but it's not Heisman impressive. I don't understand how he can be this big of a favorite when Genty is literally setting the world on fire. And the game against Oregon had one of the best games. I mean, he's literally lit up almost every team he's played. And it's like, no, the media narrative. I really hope that something happens and Genty ends up winning this, because I feel like Hunter's a disgrace to win the Heisman, to be honest. But again, same with the college football playoff. There are certain things that are ruining the sport, and I feel like this is one of them. We're going to get into some clinching scenarios. These are all over the place. I'm going to try to keep it as kind of easy as we can here. So we're going to start in the Big 12. BYU does earn a spot in the Big 12 Conference Championship game if they beat Arizona State and Utah beats Iowa State. Colorado secures a berth with a win over Kansas and a win by BYU and Utah. So basically right now, there's 9 teams in the Big 12. 9 mathematically still in this race. I told you this conference is crazy. But realistically, what we're looking at here is BYU, Colorado, Arizona State, and Iowa State. Those are the main 4 that, without like just pure fucking craziness, are the realistic. Probably looking at BYU, Colorado. Kansas does have... Colorado's going to, well, it's a fake 2. They're playing Kansas at Arrowhead this week. So, and Kansas, Jesus, they've been very impressive the last couple weeks.
Yeah, they woke up.
The AAC, we have a conference championship game. We just don't know where it's going to be played yet. Army is going to be playing Tulane. It all depends on how they finish record-wise as to who will host this game. This is a home field site. It is not a neutral site. So it will either be at West Point or it'll be in Tulane. And that game will be Friday, December 6th at 8 p.m., which I believe is going to be the exact same time the Mountain West Championship game is on. So, I mean, we could have fireworks there, too, pinning that last group of 5 spot, because Army, Tulane, Boise, and Boise's not going to have an easy run either. I mean, there's some good teams that they're going to be playing in the conference championship there also. ACC, talked about this a little bit last week. Clemson's kind of in the outside looking in, hoping for some losses because of tiebreaker scenarios. So right now it does look like it's going to be Clemson and SMU, but obviously we got to get through the rest of the season. But more than likely, Clemson will be out, and it will be Miami SMU for the conference championship there. Big Ten, there's 4 teams that are alive, basically: Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana. Oregon has clinched, as I said earlier. So we're down to Penn State, Ohio State, Indiana. For Penn State to get in, it does take kind of a miracle. And IU and Ohio State play each other, so they're kind of going to control their own destiny there. One thing that I did like betting-wise here, Ohio State to miss the playoff is plus 2,800 right now. I still think it's possible if IU beats Ohio State, they're out. I mean, this is basically an IU plus 2,800 money line for the game this weekend, where if you were to bet it realistically, I think I saw the money line. What did I see it at? I want to say it was like plus 340. So plus 340 to plus 2,800 for the same bet, essentially. I don't know. That might be worth a little money for Ohio State to miss the playoff at plus 2,800. In the SEC, we got 6 teams alive: Texas, Georgia, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss. Right now, the most likely scenario, Texas plays Texas A&M. As long as they both win this weekend, next weekend, the winner of that game when they play will most likely be taking on Alabama for the conference championship. So it'll be Texas or Texas A&M versus Alabama. Essentially, that's what mostly the odds are showing. At the beginning of the year in the preview show, I gave out Texas A&M to make the playoff as one of my favorite bets. Right now, currently, you can still get Texas A&M to win the SEC at plus 1,300. So basically, plus 1,300 to beat. Well, they're on the road at Auburn this week. We're going to get to that in a little bit when we pick the games, but that line is only a 1-point game. I do not know how. So basically, we're saying A&M at plus 1,300 to beat Auburn, to beat Texas, and to beat Alabama on a neutral field. I still like that. Texas A&M is playing really good football right now. And the last one, we're going to go through the Mountain West, which I just mentioned a few minutes ago. There's 3 teams that are still alive for 2 spots, basically. Boise State is clearly one. Colorado is another one who's still undefeated in the conference. And then UNLV would be the third. If Boise does beat Wyoming, they will clinch a spot. So if after that, Colorado State does control their own destiny, and they play Fresno State and Utah State. Colorado State is at Fresno, though. I know Fresno hasn't been as dominant as they've been last few years, but Fresno is a very good home team. So this isn't one to sleep on either. I think it's going to be a very good game. And then UNLV, obviously we talked a little bit about them last week. I was talking about their offensive coordinator being potential next offensive coordinator at Florida State. They have the potential also to face Boise in the conference championship game. So getting to the playoff release. All right. So the new poll is out, new top 25. There's some things I don't understand. Like why is Illinois and Missouri ranked? Both of them have 0 ranked wins on the season. Missouri, every time they've played anyone ranked, has got beat by like 100 points. Their team, half of their team is hurt. I just don't get it. Kansas State is 7-3, and they've beat Colorado and Tulane, but they're not ranked. I don't. That's the number 16 and the number 20 team, but nope, they're gone. So fitting though that's a Big 12 team, and Illinois a Big 10 team, and Missouri an SEC team are ranked. Wonder why that could be. Never could probably guess that one. Maybe some resume boosting. Who would have thought? Also, things that don't make sense. If we look at number 9, or no, sorry, not number 9. We're looking at SMU and BYU, 13 and 14. These are just some things that don't make sense, as BYU went to SMU and beat them on their home field. So, again, this just doesn't make sense to me. Going over some quick as what the playoff looks like right now. Obviously, this is still going to change. First round home sites, the Mormons would be going to Columbus, Ohio to face Ohio State. Alabama would be going to South Bend to face Notre Dame. Georgia would be going to Happy Valley to face Penn State. And Ole Miss would be going to IU. That is 4 cold weather home playoff games. That would be awesome if we were lucky enough to get that. I'd like to see Bama, Georgia, and Ole Miss all up in the cold for a first round playoff game. Oregon, Texas, Miami, and Boise. Boise jumping up to the first round bye now with BYU losing last week. So that would be nice to see Boise get a bye. I think if you are the 5 seed right now, especially with it being Ohio State also, well, I guess it wouldn't be likely for them to survive if they lose, and if they win, more than likely they're going to get a bye then. But the 5 seed has to be looking pretty, because I think I would want to play BYU and Boise State if I had that option, as opposed to any of these other routes through the playoffs. Though that Penn State Miami route doesn't look too bad either. But
yeah, Penn State Miami doesn't look too bad. I kind of like the idea, the possibility of Boise State getting a rematch at Oregon.
That'd be awesome. And it'd be I don't know where that semifinal game would be. It'd be one of the neutral sites, but yeah, that would be what we want to see. We want to see that rematch. What would we say the best matchup for the bottom would be? I guess probably Texas, Georgia again.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, selfishly, I want Ole Miss there, but
well, yeah, I would want either Ole Miss or IU. Honestly, I don't.
Yeah, Ole Miss or IU, the Georgia, Penn State, Miami. I don't want any of those teams to win. So
yeah, I don't either. I still don't. I don't know. I'm very interested to see how this ends up, because I don't know. I just don't. I mean, at least we can't get 4 SEC teams because that's what my main concern was. We can get 3 in Ohio State, which is almost just as bad, but
yeah,
I
and get
would prefer to not see that.
SMU in there.
Yeah, SMU could end up with that 3. Well, yeah, I would say more than likely they would be the bye. I don't think the Big 12 would jump ahead.
Yeah, God, SMU Boise State National Championship. You and I would love that. I don't know how much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Give me that every day of the week.
Yes, I agree.
Actually, give me a BYU Boise State in the quarter. Like I'm all for that. Like that's my type of football. I want to see that. Fuck this Georgia Miami. It's the last thing on earth I want to see. So last week, getting in top 25 results. Oregon won 16-13 at Wisconsin. Ohio State won 31-7 against Northwestern. Texas won 20-10 at Arkansas. Penn State 49, Purdue 10. Kansas, are just talking about that with the upset of the Mormons, 17-13. BYU's offense has become almost invisible the last couple of weeks. They've got to get something figured out quick if they want to survive this season. Tennessee 17, Georgia 31, Virginia 14, Notre Dame 35, Mercer 7, Alabama 52, Boise State 42, San Jose State 21, Boston College 28, SMU 38, New Mexico State 3, Texas A&M 38, Arizona State, Kansas State. That was one of the better games of the weekend last week. That was a hell of a game. Arizona State went on the road and beat them 24-14. Utah 24, Colorado 49, Washington State 35, New Mexico 38. That was a late night upset. That was a hell of a game. It ended at like 2 a.m. Great game, though. Washington State, unfortunately, they dropped completely out of the rankings with that loss, but still a pretty good season going. But unfortunately, that loss pretty much cost them any chance they had at the playoff. Louisville 35, Stanford 38. I don't know how they lost that game. And if you go back and watch Stanford's game-winning field goal that they hit at the buzzer, there are maybe, and this might be too high, 45 people in the crowd. Like, I'm not kidding. It's unbelievable. They have no fans ever at their games. Clemson 24, Pitt 20, Missouri 30, South Carolina 34, LSU 16, Florida 27. Brian Kelly, I think the seat might be getting hot. They might be trying to figure out a windy day to put him up on the scissor lift here soon. That's Tulane 35, Navy 0. Tulane beat the absolute hell out of the Navy in pure disrespect for the country.
Yeah, Navy's fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, bad, real bad. Tulane's looking good too. All right, so we got through all that, all the scenarios, the Heisman talk. It is time for Week 13 picks. Going into the picks, I will let you know there are 3 undefeated teams in college football. 2 of them are underdogs this week. So here we go. Number 24, UNLV is a 7.5-point favorite going on the road to San Jose State at CEFCU Stadium in San Jose, California. 61.5 over-under Friday at 10 o'clock on the One for Fun, if this doesn't kick off the weekend in any better way. And I believe we named this the California Educators and Family Credit Union, I believe. So what's going on at this stadium?
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember the exact one. Yeah, must win for UNLV if they want a shot at the Mountain West title. For San Jose State, Walker Egan has been slinging it the past few weeks, but they have a chance to cover here. He's got to cut down the turnovers. He's thrown like 7 picks in the past 4 weeks. I think the Rebels are the team to beat here, so I'm going to go UNLV to win and cover.
Yeah, I literally just watched all of San Jose State last week as Boise went there and played. They gave Boise a hell of a game, and Boise kind of broke it open late in the game. But I think it's too much. I like UNLV's offense in this one. I'm going to keep them alive for the conference championships. I'm taking UNLV also. One of the undefeated teams that is an underdog, number 5, Indiana, is going on the road to number 2, Ohio State. Ohio State is a 13.5-point favorite at Ohio Stadium in Columbus, Ohio. 51.5 over-under Saturday at noon on the terrible big noon kickoff on Fox.
Yeah, it's an absolute abomination. This game's being played at noon. College, they got to fix this bullshit.
Yes.
This is a tough game to pick because the spread's pretty significant for a top 5 matchup. Both these teams have been playing pretty good defense recently. We're looking at 2 quarterbacks that have been playing somewhat well within conference anyway. If IU somehow got the win here in the shoe, it'd be the biggest win of the year and the biggest win in school history for the Bloomington Crimson and Cream here. I love what Sig's been doing. this is a little bit the thing that's got me pausing here on Ohio State is the point that you made earlier, which is that they've lost 2 of their starting offensive linemen, and they already haven't been playing really up to what we expected going into the season. And on the offensive front, like Henderson and Judkins should be their 1-2 punch. If you don't have your 2 starting offensive linemen, that's not good. I don't know if IU is going to win this, but I'm going to take the Hoosiers plus the points here to keep it within 13.
Yeah, I've kind of fallen in love recently with Dan Lanning and how he motivates his team. Oregon has done one hell of a job with their social media of putting out clips every week of kind of what they're using as motivation. There's another coach that I've really fallen in love with the way they motivate, and it's Coach Sig. I love him. Like, he's awesome. If there's a coach to play for in America, it's him. I think IU goes in and wins this game. I don't trust Ohio State's offense in this game. IU can score at will. Now, if you ask the buffoon on ESPN, Curtis Rourke shouldn't play in this game. That's, again, some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. But that's what happens on ESPN.
Yeah, I was going to say par for the course for that network.
Yeah, absolutely dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. But, like I'm saying, I love Sig. I love IU. He is going to motivate these guys. One of his very first things when he went to Assembly Hall at the middle of a basketball game, when he got introduced as a coach, he said, Purdue sucks. And right after that, he said Ohio State sucks because he wasn't satisfied with just beating Purdue. The Oaken bucket doesn't mean shit to Sig. He wants to win the conference. This is how they do it. I'm taking IU straight up to win this game.
Woo!
Wake Forest is going on the road to number 8 Miami. Miami's a 24-point favorite at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. 64.5 over under Saturday at noon on ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, the over under kind of makes sense here. Miami's coming off the bye. Hurricanes are heavily favored, but they're only 2-2 against the spread when they're favored by more than 20. And Wake Forest has the ability to put up points. The only problem is that they're just not playing as well when they're playing ranked teams, and that's the rub in this one. Demon Deacons have struggled against top talent this season, so I am going to go Miami here to win and cover the spread.
Yeah, I'm on Miami also just for the fact that kind of mentioned earlier, Miami's almost a virtual lock right now for the conference championship game, and we know the refs are not going to allow anything to happen to that, so I'm taking Miami minus the 24. I'm pissed off that this game is on the same time as Ohio State IU because I think we're in for a good one here too. Number 9, Ole Miss is a 10.5-point favorite going on the road to Florida, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in Gainesville, Florida. 55.5 over under Saturday at noon on ABC.
Yeah, Gators playing better than we thought this year. Napier knows he's not playing for his job now, so he can avoid those distractions, just focus on football games. Big win for him last week against LSU in the Leprechaun. Now they get Ole Miss. They're 3-1 against the spread on the road, and Jackson Dart's been playing pretty well. He's got a 177 passer rating on the road. My Rebs, I know they have to keep playing to make the playoff push, so I'm going to take the Rebels here to win and cover in the Swamp.
Yeah, I'm on Florida plus the 10.5. I think that we're in for an offensive shootout. I think 55.5 is way too low. I think this is going way over that. I think we're going to push 70 in this game. Lagway as the quarterback. Florida is a different team, and yep. I think Ole Miss can still score at will, but I think Florida's going to be able to score at will also. Like I said, I think we're in for a shootout here at noon, and 55.5. There, if that happens, if it's under 55.5. Something crazy's happened. Like Lagway just throws 7 picks or something. I just don't see that being possible. I am on Florida. Number 13, SMU is a 9.5-point favorite going on the road to Virginia, Scott Stadium in Charlottesville, Virginia. 57.5 over under Saturday at noon on ESPN2.
Last road game of the year for the Pony Express as they pushed for a slot in the ACC title game. Cavs have historically played pretty well at home against the spread as an underdog, but this SMU team is just going to be too much. So I'm going to take the Ponies to win and cover. Yeah,
I think SMU keeps it rolling too. Their offense is too good, and we just saw what Notre Dame did to Virginia. I know it's back at home, but I don't think that matters right now for SMU. Number 25, Illinois is a 1-point favorite going on the road to Rutgers at Shea Stadium in Piscataway, New Jersey. 47.5 over under Saturday at noon on the Peacock.
Yeah, the over-under seems a little high there to me. Rutgers have turned it back on the past couple of weeks. They're playing better at home. This is going to be a tough, close game here. I think it may come down to a final drive, but I'm going to go with a team that's got a slightly better quarterback, in my opinion, and that's Altmaier. So I'm going to go Illinois here to win and cover.
Yeah, I just went home field advantage here. I feel like Illinois struggled a little more on the road. These teams are essentially the same teams. You're kind of right. One just has a better quarterback. I do agree. Altmaier's better. But I just think Rutgers, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on their home field here. So I'm going to take Rutgers plus the 1. UMass, their new coach, is going on the road to number 10, Georgia. Georgia's a 42-point favorite at Sanford Stadium in Athens, Georgia. 55.5 over under Saturday at 12:45 on the SEC Network.
Yeah, so interestingly, UMass has actually played pretty well against the pass this season. You look at some of their opponents, it kind of makes sense, but they've only allowed a total of 12 touchdowns through the air. Their weakness is the ground game, where they've given up 27. That may bode well for them to keep this within 42 because Georgia leans a little bit more into the pass than they do the run. So I'm going to take UMass in the 42 here to keep it respectable enough anyway.
Yeah, UMass, I can't. I never with UMass.
Dropping the U and the M. I know.
Yes. Straight ass. Now they do have the benefit that they did just fire a coach. Maybe they get that little bump. Maybe that'll be enough to cover the 42. But I'm going to be on Georgia minus 42 in this one. Moving on to the next one. Thank you, SEC, for the week before rivalry week shitty scheduling. UTEP is going on the road to number 11. Tennessee is a 41.5-point favorite. Neyland Stadium, Knoxville, Tennessee, 52.5 over under Saturday at 1 on ESPN+.
Yeah, this isn't a good matchup for UTEP. They've been extremely porous in the run game, and that's the strength for the Volunteers. So I'm going to go Rocky Top here to win and cover.
Yeah, I'm on Tennessee also. It seems like a lot of points, but who the hell knows in games like this? I hate the SEC. So Rocky Top it is. Kentucky is going on the road to number 3, Texas. Sorry, Texas, when you're new to the conference, you don't get the benefit of playing Ass Fist University the week before your rival game. So Texas is a 20.5-point favorite at DKR Texas Memorial Stadium in Austin, Texas. 46.5 over under Saturday at 3:30 on ABC.
You know, there is an argument there that Kentucky could be considered Ass Fist University. They've been playing well against the spread as a double-digit dog this season. Texas, meanwhile, is 1-3 against the spread in their last 4. So that makes this one a little bit more interesting, but last home game for the Longhorns, I'm going to take Texas here to win and cover as they head towards a big showdown next week against A&M.
Yeah, I'm conflicted on this one because there is the look-ahead spot, and I think the look-ahead spot's real. Texas hasn't played a lot of teams that are actually at full strength. I think Kentucky's actually at full strength. Kentucky can play defense. Oh, God. I'm going to go with Texas, but this is one of my least favorite picks of the week. Number 4, Penn State is a 12.5-point favorite going on the road to Minnesota. Huntington Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, 45.5 over under Saturday at 3:30 on CBS.
Yeah, this game's a little scary. Minnesota's coming off a bye to prepare for this one. They've been playing teams close all year. On the flip side, we've got a Penn State team that if a couple key things swung their way, they could be sitting undefeated right now. The spread on this is just tough, man. I don't know that Minnesota's played a team of this quote unquote caliber, but to your point, like, I think Penn State's kind of phony in their level of talent. I don't think Minnesota's going to get the win here, but I am going to take Minnesota plus the 12.5.
Yeah, I'm on Minnesota plus the 12.5 also. That damn snake oil salesman, he gets stuff done even when I don't think he's going to, so I'm not going against him here. So I'm taking Minnesota with Mr. Boat Rower. This game I'm looking forward to very much. Number 14, BYU is going on the road to number 21, Arizona State. Arizona State's a 3-point favorite at Mountain America Stadium in Tempe, Arizona. 48.5 over under Saturday at 3:30 on ESPN.
Yeah, Delhi's boys are playing really well this year. Super fun team to watch. They've been protecting the ball as well. They've only got 1 turnover in the last 3 games. Levitt's been playing lights out, but they're running into a tough defense here, especially against the pass. BYU seems to be sliding a little bit the past couple of weeks. We talked about that a little earlier. Not looking as dominant. Lost their offense a little bit. I like Sun Devils at home here. I'm gonna take Arizona State to win and cover.
I'm on Arizona State also. I do wish this game was later at night though, because this is a very early kick for Arizona State BYU local time. 1:30 out there. So I just wish it was a night game. But yeah, I'm on Arizona State in this one. They're on fire right now. They're playing very good football. At the exact same time, we're going to find out a lot about the Big 12. Number 16, Colorado is a 2.5-point favorite going kind of on the road to Kansas. It's at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. 59.5 over under Saturday at 3:30 on Fox.
Yeah, this is a juicy one here because if you've been pointing out, Kansas is playing like the Kansas we thought they were before the season started. Colorado's got their eye on the Big 12 championship. They've been beating teams pretty handily since that Kansas State loss. This one's in Kansas. I just wish if the spread was a little bit bigger, I'd be leaning towards the Jayhawks, but I'm going to take Colorado here to win and cover.
Yeah, good offensive teams have been abusing Colorado's defense. And if Kansas can play offense like they have the last couple weeks, they can win this game. I'm going to take Kansas plus the 2.5, and I think we're looking at an outright win. If we see that what they've done the last 2 weeks, they're back to looking like Kansas. I'm very impressed with them. So if we see that, they're in great shape. The Citadel going on the road, number 17, Clemson. Clemson's a 49.5 point favorite at Memorial Stadium in Clemson, South Carolina. 58.5 over under. Saturday at 3:30 on the perfect network for this, the CW network.
Yeah, this is the perfect network for this. That's good. Clemson coming off a close win in Pitt against the Panthers, returning home with 2 solid road wins. This should be an easy one for Clemson as they gear up for what may be one of the better games of the series coming up next week. But I am going to take Tigers here to win and cover.
49.5 is a lot. Dabo is not one really to run it up on the state schools. Like, he's never done that. When they play a lot of the shittier schools in South Carolina, and he never really runs it up on them. I feel like if the Citadel can get 7, which that might be a stretch, I feel like if they can get 7, they're covering this. So I'm taking the Citadel. I'm going to take them plus the 49.5, and they are probably the second closest college to where I live. So I'll go down there and storm the grounds if I have to.
Storm the field by yourself.
Yeah.
I got a story about Citadel's football stadium. I'll tell you off air.
All right. Johnson Haygood Stadium, I believe is the name. Wofford, another wonderful South Carolina school. Are they North Carolina? I think they're North Carolina.
I think they're North Carolina.
They're going on the road to number 18, South Carolina, 42.5 point favorite at Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia. 49.5 over under. Since we're talking about closest locations, I'll make note Columbia, South Carolina is the closest Long John Silver's to where I'm at, which is very important. This one's Saturday at 4 o'clock on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know Workman well enough, the Long John Silver's family meal is no match for that man.
That's right.
Same thing here. Tune-up game for the Gamecocks as they head to Death Valley next week to take on Dabo. Funnily enough, the 2 teams that we are just talking about with Wofford and Citadel just played each other, and Citadel got the W. So that doesn't bode well for Wofford here. Big spread again, but I'm going to go South Carolina here to get the winning cover here ahead of the Palmetto Bowl.
Yeah, with it being a 7 point less spread from the Clemson one, and I don't think Wofford probably will score. I'm actually on South Carolina in this one. I'll take South Carolina minus the 42.5. All right, moving to the next one, we got number 23, Missouri, who's a 7.5 point favorite going on the road to Mississippi State at Davis Wade Stadium in Starkville, Mississippi. 57.5 over under Saturday at 4:15 on the SEC Network.
Yeah, this one's a little tough to predict. Missouri's the better team, but they're not playing well on the road this year. Their only road wins against UMass. Mississippi State on the flip side has struggled all year, regardless of whether they're at home on the road. So I'm going to lean into the Tigers here, minus the points.
Yeah, I think Missouri is healthy enough. A lot of their bigger guys are playing, and I don't think Mississippi State's worth a damn. So I'm going to take Missouri minus the 7.5. Here's the other game where one of the undefeated teams is an underdog. Number 19, Army, is going to be facing number 6, Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a 14.5 point favorite at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. 44.5 over under Saturday at 7 on Peacock.
It's bullshit. Top 25 matchup, and we've got it on fucking Peacock. There's a lot of intrigue to this matchup. Army's coming in undefeated. They lead the FBS in the yards per game on offense. Their defense hasn't allowed more than 14 a season. They're coming off a bye week to prepare in a night game on a neutral site. A lot of this stuff is leaning towards Army. It doesn't favor the Irish, but oh, man, this is a tough one. Notre Dame's the better team, but I'm going to take the 14.5 in Army.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this one too. Obviously, the key to this game is going to be Army's offense against Notre Dame's defense. That's where, if they can move the ball, keep it kind of a fast game. Obviously, Vegas with the over-under at 44.5. To me, that's extremely low. I think if Notre Dame wins, we're going over this. So Notre Dame in the over is probably a pretty good parlay to me. But I'm actually going to be on Notre Dame minus the 14.5. I think they're just going to be too much for Army. I mean, I would love to be shocked. I would love to see Army win this game, to be honest, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Number 12, Boise State is a 23-point favorite going on the road to Wyoming at War Memorial Stadium in Laramie, Wyoming, 57.5, Saturday at 7 on the CBS Sports Network.
Yeah, Wyoming's rush defense is not good at all, which should mean another huge game for who should be the Heisman frontrunner,
yes,
Chauncey. Let's go Broncos here to win and cover on the road.
Yeah, I'm on Boise also. We actually just mentioned last week we had Wyoming in a pick, and I said this definitely is not the Wyoming team of the last few years. They're terrible. They do usually play a little better on their home field, but I don't think it's going to matter in this one. I think Boise's they're on too much of a roll right now. Number 7, Alabama is a 13.5-point favorite going on the road to Oklahoma at Memorial Stadium in Norman, Oklahoma, 47.5 over under Saturday at 7:30 on ABC.
Yeah, disappointing season for Oklahoma, as we know. Bama, on the other hand, has been pretty battle-tested, particularly on the road this season. Spread's a little bit concerning with this being a night game in Norman and an opportunity for Venables to get a statement win in conference, but I'm going to lean into DeBoer here. I just think he's going to be able to get it done. He knows what's at stake right now, so I'm going to go Bama here minus the points to win and cover.
Yeah, I just don't think Oklahoma can handle this offense. I like Bama a lot. Oklahoma struggled quite a bit this year. I know it is a night home game, but I just don't think it matters this year. And Bama, as I said earlier, got a pretty good trek to get into the conference championship game still. I think they'll keep that alive. I'm going to take Bama minus 13.5. Number 15, Texas A&M. Is a 2.5-point favorite going on the road to Auburn, Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn, Alabama. 46.5 over under Saturday at 7:30 on ESPN.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by this spread. Auburn's defense has played well the past couple of weeks, but also includes a game against LA Monroe and a loss to Vandy and Missouri. They've also lost to Cal, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Vandy, all at home this year. I just don't get it. I'm going Yellow Squad to win and cover easily.
I don't get this either. I don't know if they're thinking maybe look ahead spot for Texas, but I can't see this being that close at all. I'm on A&M minus 2.5. Number 22, Iowa State is a 7.5-point favorite at Utah, Rice-Eccles Stadium, Salt Lake City. 41.5 over under Saturday at 7:30 on Fox.
Yeah, Utah continues sliding. They've now lost 6 straight. Home field advantage doesn't seem to be home field advantage for them this year. I'm going to take the Cyclones here to win and cover on the road.
Yeah, Utah is not good. Their offense is atrocious. Iowa State's playing good football. Unfortunately, they did get a late loss, but I do like Iowa State to stay alive here, 7.5. That wraps up the top 25 picks. We'll move into the Muncie 6-pack, kicking it off with a game that is actually kicked off. It just kicked off. Ohio is going on the road to Toledo. Toledo is a 1-point favorite at the Glass Bowl in Toledo, Ohio. 46.5 over under Wednesday night at 7 on ESPN2.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough prediction here. Both these teams play pretty similar. 2 of the tougher defenses in the MAC. The weather doesn't sound promising, so I'm expecting some sloppy play and a turnover battle. Game script is likely to lean towards a heavy run approach for both squads, so I'm going to go with a better run team here, which is the Bobcats. So I'll take Bobcats plus the points.
I'm actually going to be on Toledo minus the 1 on their home field here. Sam Houston's going on the road to Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State's 6-point favorite at Amherst Stadium in Jacksonville, Alabama. 55.5 Saturday at noon on the CBS Sports Network.
Yeah, both these teams have been winning as of late. We'll see if the Bearcats can slow down Tyler Huff. I'm going to take Jacksonville State to win and cover and stay atop of Conference USA.
Yeah, I like Jacksonville State a lot. I like what their offense has been doing. I do think they're a little bit of a better team than Sam Houston still. So I'll take Jacksonville State minus the 6. The Tau team, Western Kentucky, is going on the road to Jesus Land, Liberty. Liberty's 1-point favorite at Williams Stadium in Lynchburg, Virginia. 56.5 over under Saturday at 1 on ESPN Plus.
Jesus Land. This may end up in a shootout. Both teams haven't played very well defensively this season. Liberty's just been too unpredictable, and they're super one-dimensional on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm going to take Tau team here.
Yeah. I'm going to be on Western Kentucky also. Liberty's offense just hasn't been what it's been in the past couple of years. I think Western Kentucky, I don't think they're going to win big, but I do think they win this one pretty easily. Bowling Green is a 12-point favorite going on the road to Ball State, Schumann Stadium, Muncie, Indiana. 57.5 over under Saturday at 2 on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, Bowling Green's been rolling the past 4 weeks. They're battling for a shot at the MAC title. Cards are obviously coming in their first game in the post-new era. They're going to be under running game coordinator and offensive line coach Colin Johnson for the rest of the season. it's just been tough sledding for the Cards this year. Ball State's been covering spreads, so I've been rolling with them lately. I just have a feeling this one's going to get a little ugly, so I'm going to go Bowling Green here minus the points.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. Like, I don't think Ball State's getting a bump from a one-time coach.
No.
And Bowling Green's offense is very good. I don't think Ball State's defense has a shot in hell of making any stops here. So I'm going to take Bowling Green minus the 12 also. Pitt is going on the road to Louisville. Louisville's an 8-point favorite at L&N Federal Credit Union Stadium in Louisville, Kentucky. 57.5 over under Saturday at 4 on ESPN2.
Yeah, tough, unpredictable team here in Louisville. Pitt, meanwhile, started hot. They've cooled off the past few weeks, albeit against some pretty tough opponents. They've been playing at SMU, Clemson, Virginia, which isn't a slouch of a football team. Louisville may get the win at home here. I just don't like the 8. So I'm going to take Pitt.
Yeah, it does seem like a lot, but I think Pitt coming off that, it was a devastating loss to Clemson. They honestly could have won that game.
Yeah.
Terrible refereeing and then gave up a huge run for Klubnik to end the game. But I'm actually going to take Louisville on their home field minus the 8 here. Vandy and the Pistons going on the road to LSU. LSU's a 7.5-point favorite at Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. 53.5 over under Saturday at 7:45 on the SEC network.
Yeah, this is an interesting game because the Pistons coming to town. They've had 2 weeks to prepare. LSU's coming off a loss. They're eliminated from playoff contention. I know it's a night game in Baton Rouge. Man, this game is a coin flip to me. I'm going to go LSU minus the 7.5, thinking this night game is going to give them the difference, but I do not trust this game.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought too. If it was not a night game, I was on Vandy. I think this is going to be real interesting because if the Pisser goes in there and even keeps it close, like within 3, or maybe they're even winning late in the game, then LSU ends up winning at the end. And I think those fans are going to turn on Brian Kelly very fast. Like I think it might get ugly in there. But I'm going to pick LSU to win and cover. But I think this one's going to be interesting. I think by the end of this game, we might see some very interesting things. Closing it out with quite the rivalry, the crosstown in LA. USC is a 4.5-point favorite at UCLA at the Rose Bowl, Pasadena, California. 51.5 over under Saturday at 10:30 on NBC.
I can't believe this fucking game's on NBC, but Army Notre Dame's on fucking Peacock.
Yeah, that's how the networks work.
Yeah. I mean, either way, I expect this one to go into the over. Both these teams struggle on the defense side of the ball. I just think USC's got the better offense, so I'm going to take the Trojans here on the road to win and cover.
Yeah, I like USC's offense in this one too. I like USC to get the win and cover. All right, so that is going to wrap up the Muncie Six-Pack. It's now time for our locks of the week. Reese, what are you kicking it off with for your lock of the week?
Let's go Heisman hopeful Jaunty. I'm going Boise State over Wyoming. Excuse me. Solid matchup here for the Broncos. So.
All right, my lock of the week. Talked about it just a few minutes ago. Texas A&M minus 2.5 at Auburn. This line makes no sense to me. I think A&M is going to go in and I don't think this game's close. I know it's a look-ahead spot to Texas, but I don't think we have much to worry about here. Dog of the week. Reese, what you got?
I'm going with Ohio over Toledo for even money dog. Get the upset this week.
They are playing right now. So if you're listening, better get it in fast. My underdog of the week. I said it earlier. This fucking snake oil salesman. I'm taking him. I think we're going to have quite the weekend in the Big Ten. Ohio State goes down and Penn State goes down. I'm thinking Minnesota plus 360 to beat Penn State. So that is it for week 13. We're going to have a lot of answers at the end of this week for most of the teams. A few teams obviously playing shitty schools, but for the most part, I think we're going to have some questions answered, especially in the Big 12. We've got some huge games in the Big 12. So for Reese Downing, I'm Jacob Workman. We'll be back next week. Play this mess all over again as to see who's going to make this playoff. But we're wrapping it up. 2 weeks left before the conference championships. So we will see everyone next week. Check out our NFL episodes, like, share, subscribe, comment, and we will see you guys later. See you,
cheers,
everyone.
guys.